Saving money in beekeeping, it will help us stay into beekeeping a lot longer. And I kind of added up what I thought it costs to start beekeeping. Now, don't be shocked at this, especially those of you that aren't keeping bees yet, you're watching. It can be expensive. So, you have your expense of your bees, which can be $150 for a package, $250 for a nucleus. It can be the hive itself. Right now, two deeps, two supers, kind of the bottom board, inner covers, and all the frames is running about $345 for the empty hive itself. And then you got your tools. You got your smoker, you got your hive tool, you got maybe a bee brush, some essential tools that you need. It's going to run you $100. Then you got your personal protection equipment, like your hat and your veil and gloves, whatever thing, a bee suit, a bee jacket. And boy, that can be anywhere. I know some of you think you can cut corners by finding all of these things very inexpensively on Amazon or what is it, Temu. You can find them really cheap. But then if you look at places that carry bee suits like bee stores or online bee companies, they can be a couple $100 for a bee jacket. So it's all over the board on some of the, or you can just go online to Amazon and buy a $20 hat and veil. The ones that I wear that have I've got one over there, but it has the little plastic thing in it. It costs me $20 on Amazon. And sometimes you'll see me work my hives with just that on. So a lot of these things are a little flexible on price. The extractor, if you want to buy extracting equipment, it's going to run you anywhere from $300 to $1,000 if you buy an extractor, cutting knife, a bucket, and buckets and strainers and all. And then pest control, that sounds like a terrible term to use when you're talking about honeybees, but controlling the pests that beekeepers wrestle with in the hive would be primarily two of them. Would be the varroa mite and then small hive beetle. So to control our mites and control beetles, you're going to be buying a oxalic acid, like an oxalic vaporizer. It's hard to find a vaporizer that doesn't cost $500. And then you have to, if you're fighting small hive beetle, you're going to buy beetle traps, sniffer pads. I mean, you're just going to buy things to control your small hive beetle and the varroa mite. And I kind of cut that a little short. Figured maybe for $50 you could buy some Formic Pro and put in there. Anyway, you're looking at just north of $1,000 to start with one hive and beekeeping, and that's pretty staggering. And at supper tonight, they were telling me that one friend said somebody came to him and bought 40 packages of bees and bought 40 big double super hives, and built a whole big honey room and had very expensive extracting equipment and so on, and wound up only getting about 6 hives out of those 40 through the winter, maybe. So, and certainly that's going to be like, wow, I'm losing money here. So let's talk about how can you save money in beekeeping. Well, first, let's go through these. Let's talk about the bees themselves. You can save money on bees by not having to buy bees. I know a lot of people take great pride. Leave a comment if you've ever not had to buy any bees, that you use some swarm traps. A lot of people put swarm traps out in spring, and then they can catch bees. They don't have to buy any. And or another way you can do it is put your name around town. Put your name at all the, Menards and Home Depot, the police department, the fire department, pest control companies. Give them your name and telephone number and tell them early in the year that if you get a call for honeybees, a removal, like a big swarm lands somewhere, call me. And so you can save money by retrieving swarms. That's a hive that is reproduced, made a reproductive swarm, and now you can just go grab those bees. You get a queen, you get maybe 20,000 bees, catch them, put them in a hive, and you save that $150 of buying a package or $250 to buy a nucleus. You can do that. Or if you're a second-year beekeeper and your hive's really big, you don't have to buy bees anymore. You can make splits. So by retrieving, gathering, splitting hives, you can save money by not having to buy packages or nucleuses every year. So always think about that. Another way that you can save money is by you can build your own equipment. Just get you a good table saw. If you really are a good carpenter, you can go on someplace like Source and you can get the blueprints, kind of the diagrams of how to make equipment, how to make hives, and you can build your own equipment. Now, you really have to be quite a carpenter to build your own frames. That's going to be a tough one, and you're going to find it's going to be much more easier for you to buy frames probably already built, unless you're just really good at building frames. The other thing is you can buy used equipment, right? There are a lot of beekeepers that quit beekeeping their first year, about 80% do. And so there's a lot of equipment out there that people have abandoned. They don't want anymore. They just would be glad for somebody to get rid of, take it. So the caution about the used equipment is you don't know whether or not it has disease in it. Like it could have some spores of either European foul brood or American foul brood. So we're always nervous about used equipment. And then the next thing, this is like one of the areas that I find it tough to save money on, because these are the tools that you need to really be a good beekeeper. And you need a smoker, a hive tool, the bee brush. You could probably get by without a bee brush, but boy, does it come in handy. And when you need a bee brush, it's great to have a bee brush. I'll tell you that right now. But what are you going to do for smoke? That's just, you need a smoker, you need a hive tool. But these smokers and hive tools today, when I started beekeeping, smokers were extremely expensive because there wasn't an Amazon, for example, or places that were getting these from other countries, and they were American-made. Beekeeping companies were selling these. It was very expensive to buy a smoker. But nowadays, smoker, hive tool, and a brush, they just aren't that expensive. I would never recommend you cut corners with hive tools. I really wouldn't. I have done that before. Used a screwdriver or some kind of tool that I had that would separate boxes, but you will damage your equipment without a hive tool. If you try to separate them with a screwdriver, it's just going to damage equipment. So, and you just need a smoker to keep your bees calm. Other tips would be saving money tips would be kind of like a tattoo approach. Now, one of the reasons I don't have a tattoo yet, I'm not going to say I'm never going to have a tattoo, but one of the reasons I don't have a tattoo is because the tattoo approach means I'm a little afraid that if I have a tattoo of something that I'm really enjoying or love, I may not enjoy it in a month or 2 or 10 years from now. I may be stuck with a tattoo of something, of a hobby, like let's say I got a honeybee. I don't know, maybe in 10 years, I may not have any bees or want to keep bees anymore. Who knows? I'm sure I will, but you get my point. So the tattoo approach in my mind is don't go out your first year and spend $1,000+ buying additional equipment like gizmos and gadgets. A lot of beekeepers make that mistake. Here's what you need to do. Listen, take my advice. I want you to keep bees for a year or maybe 2 with the bare tools that you need. And then after a year or 2, if you still love it and you're doing good and your bees are doing good and you're not frustrated and you're not depressed and disappointed in what you've selected as beekeeping, okay, you can start investing in a little more money into the tools or things that would make beekeeping a little more convenient for you. So just don't jump into it. Don't run out all at once, being so like impulse shopping idea and buying a whole bunch of bee stuff and then get out of it and got to offload all these thousands of dollars worth of equipment that some of it, quite frankly, you may not have ever used before, but you just got hooked on beekeeping in the beginning. The other thing is, let's talk about books, conferences, and the classes. Now, I'm at a big conference now out here in Ellicott City, Maryland, And there's a lot of beekeepers here. There's a lot of scientific presentations and a lot of vendors out here selling things, big bee conference. So this is where people go because a lot of people go here because of the friendships. That's one of my main reasons. And, but you do get to hear things and see new things. A lot of people are here because they're brand new beekeepers and they're hungry for anything to do with beekeeping. And it's fun. That's how you learn. You jump in, you start learning things. But one of the things I want to tell you is whether you're taking a class, a beekeeping class like the ones that we have, or if you're taking a conference in, or you're buying a whole bunch of beekeeping books, what you soak in needs to be applied. You can't, how I remember when I was in college, or maybe in high school and college, I always thought it'd be nice if I could just hold that book, that college book against my head, and all the content would just flow into my brain and I wouldn't have to take the time to read it. That's sometimes how people feel in beekeeping, that if I buy books and if I go to conferences and if I take a class, then I'll be a perfect beekeeper. Well, all that information you're taking in, not only do you have to learn it, what you're reading and taking in, but now you got to go out and not just apply it, but you have to understand it so you can apply it. So be careful that you don't waste a lot of time reading books and running to conferences and taking a bunch of classes and never take the time to go out into the field and keep applying and seeing what you've learned, what you've read, because you really don't learn it until you put your hands in it and start working it with your hands. That's when your information comes alive. So sometimes you just need enough information to get you started. And then as you keep working your bees, take in more information. I think we sell a lot more of our classes to second year beekeepers than we do first year, because the first year beekeepers have sometimes the attitude that, hey, I think I know it all. I think I'm good. But your second year, you realize, I need to know a little bit more. So try not to fall into all the information of impulse buying and buy everything. You can save a ton of money just by kind of cooling your jets a little bit and start working your bees before you start spending a lot of money. Now, can you make money in beekeeping? Is there money to be made? I think there is. I really do. I think it would be something to talk about beekeeping as a sideline business. Some people refer to them as a kind of a hustle, your second hustle. You got a full-time job, but now you like to go home and work your bees. Maybe you're going to sell some honey on the side because, you want to make a little bit more money to subsidize the expense of your hobby. I think that's what a lot of beekeepers really do. One is, I just don't want this hobby of beekeeping to dig into my family budget, for example. And so they want to make a little bit more money off their bees so they can subsidize what this hobby costs. Now, if you haven't heard my rant yet about how beekeeping is not a hobby, let me rant again. Somewhere along the line, we divided up beekeepers into three categories. We divided them up into the hobbyist, the sideliner, and the commercial beekeeper. And that's where they fit. And they fit in those categories based on the number of hives they have. And that range of hives kind of varies depending on who you're talking to. You got your hobbyists with probably no more than 50, maybe up to 100 hives. I don't see that's a hobbyist at all. Sideliners are going to have 100, couple hundred hives. Your commercial guy is going to have hundreds of hives, if not thousands, and that we've divided them up. But I just want to talk about the hobbyist. I don't really believe that a beekeeper that has just started and you've got just one or a few hives can really call yourself or call beekeeping a hobby. A hobby is something that you do at your leisure on your own time when you have time to do it for fun. And beekeeping isn't that way. We're on the honeybee season. We're on their time. We're on their clock. We have to do things what they need done. And so you can't leisurely keep bees effectively. Now you can be a hobbyist. Now what we call that is we call that being a bee haver. It means you have bees, but you're not keeping bees the way that they need to be kept. So The terminology is you can be a beekeeper, you can be a bee haver, but it's more than a hobby. And so a lot of people that get into beekeeping as a hobby, um, it takes a little bit more effort than you think. So to make money in beekeeping, you have to really put a lot of heart, soul, blood, and sweat into beekeeping to start making money. So the easiest way you can make money in beekeeping is to sell your honey. Your bees are producing a lot of honey, hopefully, and you can bottle it, extract it, bottle it, sell it at a farmer's market. You can make money and start making money back. Some people have a lot of different prices they charge for honey, $10 a pound, for example. So, if you get 30 pounds of honey off a super, which is pretty typical off a medium super. You sell that at $10 a pound. You're making $300. You got 2 supers, that's $600. So you can start making some money back if you're fortunate enough for your bees to be good honey producers and you've got the patience to, extract it. One thing I wanted to say about an extractor, by the way, a lot of times you don't have to buy one your first year. I remember for a long time, we actually loaned out an extractor when we had our store on our property, and beekeepers in the area could come by and get one of our 2-frame extractors, and we would loan it out to people that needed it for the weekend or something. So we oftentimes did that. So maybe your club, you can save money that way. Maybe your club would have an extractor that you could borrow and use it before you decided one you wanted to buy. But if you're wanting to make more money in beekeeping, most beekeepers get into what we call a nuke, selling nukes. It's easy to sell nukes. All you got to do is just get your bees through the winter really strong. And right before they swarm, you go out there and you take the queen and 4, 5 frames out of your hive and make a 5-frame nuke out of it. And so that way you prevent your own hive from swarming, let them raise a new queen or put a new queen in your nucleus. And then you can sell that nuke and you can make about around $200 off a nuke. And so that's one of the ways that many people kind of start making money on beekeeping. They start selling bees. Now depending on what state you live in, there's regulations. Sometimes they have to be inspected. In my case, I have to have the bee inspector inspect them and give them a clean bill of health, moving permits and all that. It depends on where you live, what state you live in, but you can always make money by selling bees. And then if you really have an art, kind of a artistic skill, you can always do things like make candles out of beeswax from your honey cappings that you extracted your honey. You can also make candles, lip balm, soap with beeswax in it. I know for years we did that at our honey stand. So you can make other products from the honey or the wax from hives. So there's always a way that you can keep expanding your ability to make more money as you get more skill in retrieving things from the hive, like wax, or even if you wanted to get crazy and do propolis and find a buyer for your propolis, there's propolis traps, or even pollen. There's pollen traps. You can sell pollen, and even royal jelly, although that's a lot more complicated. Not many people do that, but obviously you can find a way and educate yourself, way to retrieve and sell royal jelly. And then a lot of people, and I do mean a lot, I'm not being too generous here, I don't think, but a lot of people will stay into beekeeping, 5 or 6 years or more, 10 years, and then they get into running a full-fledged beekeeping business where they sell equipment, they have hives for sale, either buying them from another big store, they're selling them to you. Not many people make their own wooden hives anymore like we used to, but they start reselling beekeeping products. And so a lot of people, a lot of mom and pop shops have popped up everywhere now, with people having their little stores, and they're selling their honey, they're selling equipment. They get packages from the South and they drive them up to their store to sell them to their customers. They'll get nucleuses and sell their customers. So if you get bit really bad by the beekeeping bug, and that's all you dream about at night and all you think about in the daytime, then you might be one of those people that might keep expanding your beekeeping, your love for bees until the point where you're running your own beekeeping business. Now, let me say very quickly, a beekeeping business is no different than running any other business. You don't get any special tax cuts, tax breaks, or anything like that. I mean, other than you might be considered a farm in your area, but you're still going to have to abide by all the laws of running a business, and taxes, and employee taxes, and workman comp, and insurance on products that you sell, product insurance. So there is a lot to running a bee business if you do it like any other business. Even anytime you sell honey, there's sometimes laws associated with honey sales by county, like public health department may want to come look at your room where you extract your honey from and sell it. Every state, every county is different. And sometimes it's a cottage law, sometimes it's an exemption. Sometimes the public health can come down really hard on you and make you have a certified kitchen with smooth, washable walls, double bowl sinks with the Clorox rinse and everything. So you've got to check all that out. Don't think that. So I'm just trying to tell you that it can be a business, but there's a lot to that business. Beekeeping can be a way to make money. But I would say most people are looking for ways to save a little money when you're into beekeeping. And I hope these ideas have really helped you guys out. That's good. All right. Well, tonight I'm here all night long for another half an hour just about to answer your questions. So I'll be happy to answer some of your questions now that you might have been dying to ask me. Fresh answers all the way from the state of Maryland. What kind of questions do you have tonight? Well, if you're posting questions, here we go. I was going to say something's wrong. I don't see anything. Hey, Adam, I have a frame they drew out back in early spring, and they refused to put anything on it, not even one cell, no matter where I put it in the hive or other hives. What's your thoughts? Adam, I want to know, is that frame a super frame or is it a deep frame? If it's a deep frame or a super, maybe it doesn't really matter that much. My concern is that what's wrong with that frame? I would try a different frame. I would just pull that one out of the pool and put a new one in there. Adding wax always helps, and I bet anything, Adam, you've done that. I appreciate you being a part of my YouTube channel. You've seen that, and you probably added wax to it. You just can't get it pulled out. It might just be that particular frame just isn't going to work for you. I would try a different frame. I really couldn't say what would be causing that. If it's an older frame and it has been exposed to things like wax moth or mice have been on it and left their smell on it, it's not going to ever be pulled out. You're going to have to pressure wash it if it's plastic and then put some fresh wax on it. But any kind of smell like that. So think back and see if you had it stored in the garage too close to a gas tank or some oil paint or something, and maybe it got picked up a little smell somewhere. But I'd try a different frame. Hey, Ross, thank you much for your donation tonight. Appreciate that. I have two resource bound hives. Hopefully things turn corner, but if I lose them, what do I do with the frames? Packed full of resources so I can use the drawn comb next year, freeze them or spin them. I don't know if you have more hives, can you use them in those other hives? If these are two resource bound hives, I sound like they're honey bound to me. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, I would definitely spin them, get all the honey out of them, and then bottle that honey. And then I would certainly freeze them first. I'd freeze them after I spun them out, kill any eggs on the small egg beetle or wax moth eggs or something, freeze them for 2-3 days, store them, and then you would have drawn comb for next year. Yeah, definitely do that. Thanks again, Ross. Appreciate that. Oh, Ross again. Let's say hypothetically that a hive of bees left suddenly and it's too late to start a new hive. What do I do with all the frames that are full of resources to be used next season. Yeah, that is a dilemma, and it does happen to all of us at times. And what you'll need to do is figure out how you can store all of that good comb for next year. And it's going to be pretty much what I just said. I would try to freeze those things as much as I can, and then find a nice place that's not too much humidity in that room, and store them in that room. Store all that frozen after you freeze them, store them in there. That's going to help a bunch. Hey, we're going to say hello to Leah. Hi, Leah, and Vera, one of my granddaughters watching tonight, and her husband Seth says hi. So thank you guys for watching all the way from Illinois. Yeah. It's always tricky to store some of the things that we have left over each year. I realize that. Can uncapped nectar frames be frozen and then stored at room temperature for winter? Boy, uncapped nectar frames. I would be a little leery of that. I'm afraid they're going to attract some mildew if they're kept in a room. It's not uncommon for them to mildew, mold. And the best way to do it is to keep them frozen until the point where you need them again. And now what you can do is you can test this theory out, Michelle. I think you can just go ahead and freeze them and then put them in a room, in a temperature controlled room for the winter. But I would keep an eye on them. I would go out there and look wherever that room is, and look, every week or so, and see how the surface looks. And if they're starting to get moldy, I would put them back in the freezer or something like that, and see if you can store them in that freezer. But I've done it before, real successfully. I do it quite often, actually. Yeah, but not always with nectar in them. Yeah. Redbeard Hives, aka Tim Sanders. Hey Tim, how are you doing? In North Nevada, we're still getting honey. I harvested and put the supers back on. How long do I leave them on? How long you leave those supers on, Tim, is really dependent upon what they look like inside. So you're going to have to go in there and take a look, see how those bees are filling up those frames of nectar. Are they starting to cap it over? Leave them on as long as you have nectar coming in, as long as your season is going strong. Again, the bees are going to tell you when they're just done putting nectar in there. And also give them a minute to pull it back down into the brood area. So in other words, they might be putting honey in a super that may not ever get filled up and capped over, but if you leave it on there a little bit longer, like start of a dearth or something, most of the times they'll pull that nectar out of there and move it back into the brood area below them. Yeah. Oh, thank you for your $5 donation. Good to see you again tonight. Absolutely. Appreciate it. We want to say, boy, the storm that has come in through Florida and working its way up the eastern seaboard and all, it's been crazy. We're under tornado watches and thunderstorm watches all the way up here in Maryland. So yeah, probably Jessica, are you in that kind of bad weather over there? Yeah, over the way in Virginia too. Melissa saw 4 super seeder cells, 4 swarm cells while inspecting today. I foolishly started removing them before confirming the presence of my queen. I didn't see her or any eggs. Have I doomed my colony? So it sounds like you got rid of all cells in the hive. So yeah, that's something. If you don't see eggs, they're not going to be able to raise a queen. So that's a good thing, Melissa. I'm glad you were triggered the right way, maybe a little bit late. But a lot of people will tear down those cells, not really realizing if they have a queen in there or not. And so I want you to always look for your queen first before you go tearing cells out. If you don't see a queen, leave a couple of cells in there, a couple of them. Yeah, I know it sounds weird to leave 2, but I like leaving 2 for insurances and insurance purposes. Now, you might have to just buy one. Just be prepared to buy a queen if you don't see one. But if hopefully maybe they had a virgin queen already get out, mamaybe she was out mating. Yeah. Hello, Brian Hill. How are you doing? Thank you for being so diligent and making so many educational videos. Well, I appreciate it, Brian. Yeah, and I debated on going live tonight because of the heavy schedule over here in Maryland. I'm a little hoarse, as you can tell, but I just love being with you guys and teaching and sharing so much, answering questions. And that's why I made a commitment to be here tonight. The worst thing about going live in a hotel room, and I've done it quite a few times, is there's never any good background. You always got your unmade bed or your underwear on a lamp. It's just like a fire extinguisher. It's just like a tough place to find. So this is the best spot here, I thought. All right, John. David, after requeening a hive, how long can it take before I can expect to see cap brood? Thanks, first year beekeeper. So if you requeen a hive, let's say you drop a queen in there the first day of August. Let's just keep it simple. So August the 1st, you drop a mated queen in there. Then it's going to take her probably 2 or 3 days before she gets out of her cage and feels good about laying some eggs. And then after that egg is laid, it's going to take about another probably 10 to 12 days before you start seeing a lot of cap brood. So I don't know if that timing helps you a little bit, but maybe a couple of weeks for sure, you should see capped over brood. Absolutely. Thanks, Tim, for your donation at the live stream tonight. I appreciate it. Appreciate it a lot. Yeah. Thank you. Hello, Debbie. Can I overwinter a small nuke over a strong hive using a double screen board? Will the heat from the strong colony help keep the nuke warm? I'm in Southwest Arkansas. I think in Southwest Arkansas, you have a lot more chances of successfully overwintering anything in anything. I really do, compared to what I have in Illinois. But yeah, I have heard that, and I have done that a few times. You can think about that. You can do that. I have some, I guess in my mind, I don't feel strong either way, whether I want to say don't do it or certainly do it. It's going to be one of those things of trial and error. I would encourage you to try it unless that's your only hive and your only nuke. It's a little risky, but these things need to be tried by every beekeeper because every beekeeper is a little bit different in how they set things up. Your double screen may be a little different. It may be a square hole in the middle. It may be the whole square, the whole, a whole, like a bottom board almost, but it's a wide open screen. So I really don't know what your configuration is. Thanks, Marianne Livingston, for your $5 super sticker. Appreciate it. But getting back to this overwintering a nuke above a hive, yeah, you got to do it carefully by having the boards built just right to cover up the excess, or put 2 5 frames together to make a box up there. A little tricky. So I don't know what your configuration is and what you're thinking about, but I'd give it a try. If you can spare the loss, it's kind of like gambling or kind of like investing, I guess, in the stock market. If you want to invest that money knowing you might lose it, then it won't hurt as bad if you lose them. Hello, Jen. How are you? My bees have so much honey that they left 2 or 3 frames for my queen. What do I do? Jen, this is kind of a good thing. But again, one of the things I want to say is sometimes when they get honey bound like that, it means the queen's not laying as good as she could have. And she should have been more on the ball, filling up frames. And when she didn't, they just plugged them with honey. So we got to wonder about the quality of your queen. But if she is okay and they've just gone crazy with honey, then you can spin that out on an extractor and then put it back in the hive, in the brood nest area, and see if they'll clean it up, dry it out, and get it ready for eggs. See if she'll start laying eggs on the frames that you can spin and extract the nectar or the honey out of it. That's certainly what I would do if it was honey bound. Yeah, but I'm concerned more about the queen herself. Why didn't she keep laying enough? I'd rather be brood bound than honey bound. That means my queen is good, and I can always feed those bees, but I need a good laying queen. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for that donation, Michelle. Appreciate it. Oh, yeah. Hello, Katie. Hello, Burns Tribe. Yeah, we are in our tribe, aren't we? Good Beak Squad tribe being together. Thank you for everything. North Central Florida here. Is it okay to use robber screen if you still see pollen coming in? If so, why don't we keep them on all the time? Well, that's not a bad idea, but there's a lot of things that usually a robber screen does not knock off the pollen like a pollen trap would. It doesn't really knock it off. There's a big enough opening they can get into the hive. Why don't we leave it on all the time? It's because robbers will eventually figure it out. That's why there's two doors on most robber screens, a right side and a left side. You can rotate that out. But if you leave it on there all year long, then the robbers can eventually figure that out. So it's more about, oh my gosh, we're in robbing season. Let's put that on temporarily. We put it on though, really when the dearth is it goes on when there's a dearth. And so there's not a lot of activity from your bees needing to go in and out of it. Not as much nectar gathering, not as much pollen gathering. And that's why we feel a little bit better about putting that on there then. But leaving it on all year long, it's going to provide too much of a restriction from what your bees need to carry out. That's my opinion, but I don't know everything and I don't own the corner of all bee knowledge. I never want you to think, do it my way or the highway. I don't believe that. I respect so many people's ways of doing beekeeping. So I think that's important we do that. Hey, Nick, how are you doing? Dave, my bottom hive has only 8 frames instead of 10. I know, big mistake. Now it's become a mess. What do I do? Help. Okay, so you have a 10 frame deep box and you only had 8 frames in it. And so wherever those gaps appeared, they took it upon themselves to put that stray comb in there. I'm assuming you have 2 deeps because you said a bottom deep. What I would think you should do is leave it alone, leave it in there. Go through winter with that bottom extra comb in there. And in winter, they're going to move up into your top deep. And this spring, early, before things get rolling good, then I want you to go in there and tear out that comb because there won't be anything on it. They would have deserted that bottom deep for the most part, hopefully. And you can take that out and save it as a story time at the local school when you teach on bees, pass around that comb. And then you can put frames in those spots where they go. That's one way that probably the best thing to do. I just wouldn't go in there and tear it down now. It probably has brood on it and you hate to lose that brood. Yeah, that's happened to me before several times. Making a YouTube video, I'll do something and I'll forget to go back and make it right. And the bees go to town on a weird space in there. It happens. Don't feel bad. Yeah. Hey, Brenda, how are you doing? I'm having a hard time trying to tell when my bees are about to swarm. Yeah, we all do. Now, Brenda, we like to think that it's an easy way to tell. We just go in there and look for swarm cells. They're going to be on the lower part of frames or on the bottom of your frames in the brood area. And but the tricky part is that usually there's a lot of bees in there at the time. And it's hard to see cells sometimes with bees standing on top of bees. It's just difficult. But you'll get good at it. You just got to move bees around so that you can examine every square inch of frames in swarm season and see if you can see swarms on the lower part. Now, some people will take their bottom deep and they'll tilt it like this and look underneath the bottom. They won't even take frames out. They'll see. But I don't like doing that because sometimes I miss cells that might be a tad bit higher on some uneven comb up there. So for me, I like to go ahead and just look, take frames out and look. You can get an idea. You can get a pretty good idea just by looking carefully. I wish there was a better way, Brenda. A lot of things about beekeeping is just cowboying up and doing the hard work of swarm control. It really is. Well, thank you, local Buzz LLC, Straight Creek Apiary, Brian G. Thanks, Brian, for your donation to the live stream tonight. By the way, those of you that don't want to donate on live stream tonight, you can always go to our website there on the bottom of our screen at honeybeesonline.com. And donation, you can make a donation to the live stream from our website. Jaden, hey, Mr. David, is it safe to repaint your hive tools with spray paint? I'm kind of really pretty sharp when it comes to painting metal because back in the day, I used to be a bike racer, cycle racer, and I painted my own bikes. Not motorcycle, but pedal. I painted my own bikes, and it was hard to get paint just right to stick to your steel frames or your aluminum frames, as they say in the UK, to everybody watching from the UK, or aluminum frames, as we call them. It's hard to get that paint to stick. So You're going to have to be kind of a paint specialist and know what kind of paint's going to stick to a bare piece of stainless steel or iron that's been tempered or something. Otherwise, it can come off pretty easy. I've bought some cheap hive tools, some cheap J hook hive tools, because it's just a piece of metal, right? And half of it's painted red. Well, I took a little bit of alcohol to knock off the propolis. It knocked off the red paint. It peeled off like a layer of plastic. So uh, you could find somebody, if you had a good friend that could do powder coating. Boy, that'd be cool, wouldn't it? Dip it in there halfway, but it's pretty tough to paint metal. But you could figure it out. You can get some good paint that works. Leave some comments, those of you that really do a lot of metal painting. Oh, thank you, V. Sanderson, for your donation tonight. Appreciate it so much. Glad that so many of you are here at the live stream tonight. Appreciate it. Hi, Deborah. How are you? Off topic, but this is about feeding bees bananas, slice and peels, placing them on the top bars. Watermelon also has been mentioned. Is there any nutritional value to doing this? When it comes to nutritional value, bees don't require a ton of nutrition like humans do, right? When we eat bananas, we get a lot of potassium and things that kind of spark us up a little bit. I know when I'm biking for a long time, bananas keep me going. A lot of people are afraid to use bananas because we've heard that bananas will smell like the alarm pheromone. It's kind of the same actual chemical in both of those. But I've fed bees bananas as experiments, and they do like it because fruit is sugar. Watermelon is sugar. It has sugar in it. So bees will eat it. And there's been people that love feeding bananas to bees. And yeah, I don't think it would be bad for bees. No. But again, give it a try. See what you think. See if the bees do like it. Hey, Sally. Well, thank you so much for your donation tonight. Thank you for sharing your hard-earned knowledge with all of us. I'm glad Sally, I'm glad you realize that it is hard-earned knowledge. It's almost 30 years of making a whole bunch of blunders and learning. And I've thought a lot about this because I educate a lot of beekeepers, and it's really kind of challenging to take information that I know and I've spent a lifetime learning and synthesize it down to easy to understand ways that I can teach people about it. Because, after you've kept bees a long time, you can open up a hive and immediately you know what you're seeing, what you're doing, what they need, what's wrong, what's right. I would say within 60 seconds, probably within 3 minutes, I can inspect a hive and know everything about it. And that has come from a lot of years of hard knocks and trial and error, a lot of studies. So I'm glad you appreciate that. And I am glad to share it with you guys. Yeah. Okay, Mike here. Hello, Mike. Hey, David, when it comes to buying wax foundation from random sources, any way I can disinfect or clean from American Foul Brood or any other scary ones? Thanks. I'm assuming you mean like drawn foundation. Let's see, when it comes to buying wax foundation, or maybe just wax foundation that hadn't been drawn out yet. I don't think there's that much transfer of those spores when we buy wax foundation. I really don't. I think that the process that they use, they've taken precautions, hopefully, to make sure that that's not a problem. Yeah, I don't know what you can do personally. You can have eradicate. I mean, you can take it through things, but if you're really worried about it, the best thing to do is just not buy it. Let the bees pull out their own frames, their own foundation. Yeah. Yeah, let's check what time it is here tonight. Oh, wow. Time is running out, isn't it? I'm going to go a few minutes over because I was a few minutes late. Okay. Okay, Bear Creek. I had a dead out recently with no damage, just a few wax moth larvae on comb. Will the bees clean the wax moth larvae off the comb, or should you freeze the frame, then drop it back in? Okay, let me educate you on that. What I've experienced and what I've read is that once there's been wax moth damage, bees aren't really fast to get back on it. So what happens is that you need to freeze it to kill any possible eggs. And then if it's a plastic foundation and it really looks bad from the wax moth damage, I would scrape it down to the plastic and recoat wax on it. If it looks really bad, just get rid of it, re-wax it, freeze it, re-wax it. Thank you, Pam. Thanks, Pam, for your super sticker. And if it's a wax foundation, they've eaten it up and you can see through it and just see wires showing, you're going to have to re-wax it anyway. But one time I did a little experiment with that and I put it back in the hive. I could not get them to touch it. They would not get on it until I tore it down and re-waxed it. Yeah. Hey, Dana, how are you? David, I have 4 hives and the queens have a good brood pattern in all hives. Do I need to replace the queens to have younger queens for winter? One of the missing things that I don't know here is how old that queen is, Dana. But I'm going to assume that it's a 1-year-old queen. If it's a 1-year-old, even a 2-year-old queen, I would let her go through the winter. But past 2 years, I don't want to go into winter with a 2-year-old or older queen because I'm afraid she's going to pass away sometime in the winter and I can't get a queen in there until late or mid to late spring, see? And they're going to be my hive's going to be too weak in number. We need a queen to lay eggs all winter long, actually, a little bit. So 1 to 2 years, go for it. Older than 2 years, maybe want to replace her. Yeah. Hey, Ryan, Stark Lavender Fields, thank you tonight for your super sticker. Thanks for watching. Yeah, maybe, Ryan, you'll be over here at the EAS one day getting your Master Beekeeper certification. That'd be fun. Yeah, I want to encourage all of you to think about that. We had 25 candidates that have taken the test this year, so that's great. All right. Hi, David. How do you get away from not using excluders to keep the queen from laying in your supers? I just made a video, I think last week, maybe the week before, where I used a isolation queen cage. It's a cage that you can buy from Better Bee. Been fun being with Dr. Peck this week. He's here on behalf of Better Bee, and he and I have talked about that cage that they sell. I have one. I've made videos about it. And if you can put a deep frame in there and isolate your queen down there, and I don't need a queen excluder. That video is so good. It's gotten so many views. You got to go back and watch that video that I made last week or week before. And then once they draw the frames out in my honey super up above and start putting nectar in it, she'll never go and lay eggs in there because they have to polish the cells for her to lay. They have to sterilize every cell with a little bit of propolis and clean it out good before she lays an egg. If she got up there, she'd see honey and nectar in her cells and she'd turn around and go back down. That's how I do it. And I've got videos showing you how I do it. So please take a moment and watch those videos because you will be amazed at how well that works. Don't have to use queen excluders. All the bees don't have to squeeze through there. Yeah. Well, thank you, Luke. I appreciate your donation tonight. Thank you for enjoying my videos. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm so glad to be on here. I was so afraid I wouldn't make it. We just had such a downpour tonight. We were trying to get through traffic to get here. So back to the hotel. So glad to make it. Alan, thank you, David, for all you do. I'm using Russian and bee weaver queens to try and avoid using chemical mite treatment. I have had success for 2 years. Do you have an opinion? I have an opinion that you've been successful for 2 years. Good job. Keep doing it. That's my opinion. I'm not going to say that that's good or bad right now. It sounds good to me and good for you. That's it, man. Hey, I never argue with success. Never. I never tell people that something is working right for them, that they should do it a different way. Oh, my dad taught me better than that. In fact, I might want to buy the queens that you bought now that you said that. Okay, Carrie. I just finished David's Ultimate Course package and learned a ton. 5 stars, would recommend. Well, man, that's awful nice of you, Carrie. I appreciate that for that public service announcement. Yeah, check out our website at honeybeesonline.com. I did spend a long time developing these classes. I know you guys can get them free at places. I know that. But if you want to buy classes from us, it does help the cause and all the things that we do. And you do get to tap into my my experience and what I've learned over the years, it might be beneficial for you to check that out. So if you like watching the live streams, you might really enjoy my personality teaching you about bees for my online classes. David, I've been following you for 3 years now, but seriously, what is your secret to your massive hives coming out of winter? I use your winter bee kind boards. I feed supplements. Yeah, I really do have success with feeding bees. And I got to be honest with you, I haven't talked a lot about this little secret here, but I do try to really respect my bees. I don't treat my bees like herds of bees that I can just kick around and boss around and do things that I want to with my bees and abuse them. I look at them as having the upper hand over me. So when I get into a hive, I respect my bees. I don't want to interrupt them too much. I don't do crazy things with my bees, right? I don't get into them crazy. I don't manipulate them in a crazy way. I'm on their time frame. I think they like me, and I think they get along better because I'm not doing crazy stuff with my bees. I'm doing the minimal things that I need to do to keep them healthy. I'm helping them. I'm showing up as little as I can. And then I do feed them heavily in the winter time. I do take care of feeding them in the fall to get bees of winter physiology. A lot of people tell me that, my ways of keeping bees is kind of off the record, or kind of like it's out of mainstream. It's not our common way of doing it. I don't own an acylic vaporizer. Can you believe that? I don't. I've never owned one. Let me think. I've only used acylic acid to make videos showing people how to use it. I don't use any kind of harsh chemicals. I try to get by with little as I can. I do control mites. I keep my mites under control. I have had to use Formic Pro if they get out of control, but I use the lower pyramid of the integrated pest management: green drone comb, powdered sugar, breaking the brood cycle, screen bottom board, things like that. And I think my bees respect me for that. I know that all these chemical compounds that we put in our hives, that, we all believe that they don't really hurt bees that much. But I'm sorry, if you filled my hotel room up with some kind of harsh chemical that's bound not to hurt me, I don't know. I don't want to do anything more than I have to with my bees. Thanks, Kathy, for the super sticker. I'm not saying that these treatments are wrong. I think acylic acid is very worthy. It's especially if you want to keep them under control. I'm not putting down a vaporizer. I'd love to have a vaporizer, to be honest with you. I can't bring myself to pay $500 for a vaporizer. But I'd love to have one. All right, let's take one or two more questions. We're going to call it a night. Put my voice to rest. Christy, Dave, my original hive swarmed. Oh, that means they were healthy, though. They created a new queen, and she is a beast. Great laying pattern, great hygienic. Love her. She is aggressive, though. I really don't want to replace her. Can I leave her? I have a hive like that, Christy. You've probably seen it in my videos. I'll make reference to it, and you've never seen me open it in a video yet. I might make a video where I open it. I'm just worried about my videographer, Pat. He's going to have to put on a bee suit and armor made of steel, and we might do a video. But boy, you open them up, and they're not happy. But I like the hive. I like what they do. I've had them for years. I've never treated them for mites, and they're just rocking, like you said. I'd raise queens from her, but I can't get in there and get a frame out of it without getting torn up. So if you can live with it, I would try to live with it. I mean, I hope you're not in Africanized territory. I wouldn't want Africanized hives, but if you're not, and it's just a very defensive hive, and it's not endangering neighbors or not going to swarm and all that. Sometimes when hive swarms and they replace their queens, they get a little bit more defensive in these hybrid situations too. Robert, thank you. Oh, you enjoyed my video on August tips? Yeah, a lot of people have. I made a video on farm spray, and that video was, people watched it, they liked it, but it wasn't like the one on August that I made after that. The August tip one just blew up. It's one of my best viewed videos that I've made in the last 10 or 15 videos that I've made. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Hey, Mark, in my area, the city is spraying for mosquitoes. Would that bother my bees? Oh my gosh, yes, it would. Absolutely, it will. So the thing you need to do is try to cover those bees up with a wet sheet or something, and not suffocate them. But when they're going by there and spraying, see if you can cover that hive up so that chemical doesn't drift into your screen bottom board or the entrance of your hive. That stuff is nasty on bees. Absolutely. Yeah. That's why I live 2 miles out from the hard road. Hey, Jack, thank you for your super sticker tonight. I'm going to take one more question, and I promise that's going to be the last one that I have time for tonight. One more question tonight. Picking you guys. Want to thank Jessica and Sherry and Robbie again for all that they're doing tonight as well. Jessica says, wait just a second, I got one. I kind of caught them off guard by telling them one more. Okay, bees and are only drawing out and filling one side of the upper deep. Can I checkerboard the undrawn frames? We typically don't checkerboard the brood area. Checkerboarding is something that was created, a concept that was created only for the honey supers. But in this case, if you have a good nectar flow and you got a lot of the bee season in front of you, you could get by with probably checkerboarding one or two to see if that would help a little bit. But I'm guessing you're probably like me, you probably don't have a lot of nectar flow, a lot of the season left, and it probably isn't going to work very well. So that's going to be a little tough one. Only thing you could do is try it, see if that would work. Thank you for EL for your donation tonight. One caveat is that if you're in the area with Africanized feral bees, you must requeen colonies with queens of known origin, calm genetics. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a law in many places. Absolutely. And that you make a very good point. If I was in Africanized territory, I would definitely make sure I had a marked queen and I made sure she was in there. The minute that marked queen was gone and there was a replacement queen, I would kill that replacement queen immediately and buy me a queen that came somewhere else that I knew was not going to be an Africanized queen. Because, boy, they're pretty aggressive in how they can take over a hive. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate the clarification. Okay, everybody. So nice to be with you tonight. I appreciate you dropping in and being with me. And I appreciate I could get in with you. I'm out here in Maryland at the Eastern Apicultural Society in North America. Yeah, that's what it's called. And fun time out here. Great people. All the people that you know in science and beekeeping are out here speaking and giving lectures and panel discussions and all. So I've got a lot of good information. I'm not making videos out here, but I'm gathering up a ton of information that I can incorporate and help you guys stay very knowledgeable in your beekeeping endeavors. So I want to say thank you. I love you guys all so much. You guys are the best. Gosh, I can't believe how nice it is that you guys join me every week. Just wonderful. Always check out my website at honeybeesonline.com. And please go to YouTube, type in David Burns and whatever subject you're interested in beekeeping. David Burns resource hives, David Burns Mite Control, David Burns small hive beetle control, David Burns inner covers, whatever you want to know. I've made a video on it. Check my videos out. I appreciate it so much. I'm going to say good night. Hope you guys have a good evening and keep watching my videos. Tomorrow morning or tomorrow, I'm going to make a video and answer as many questions that I didn't get to tonight as I can. So I'll be doing that tomorrow. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Good night.